I used to think silence meant strength, that if I smiled enough, gave enough, stayed quiet enough, I would be okay. That if I didn't make anyone uncomfortable, no one would reject me. But the truth is, silence doesn't protect you. It only buries your pain deeper until one day it starts to bleed through the cracks. My name is Lina. I am 43 years old, and for over 2 decades, I carried a wound that no one saw, not even the people who gave it to me. This story isn't easy to tell. It still trembles in my chest. But maybe, by speaking it aloud, I'll finally stop whispering it to myself in the dark. I was only 20 when I left everything behind. My country, my childhood, my mother. I moved across the world to follow my husband, Aaron. We were young, and I thought we were in love. Or maybe I just wanted to believe love would be enough. I didn't know what waited for me on the other side. I didn't know his parents. I didn't know the language. But I followed him anyway. If I had known what would happen, I think I would have asked for a divorce before boarding that plane. But I didn't know. I was too young to understand how cruel indifference can be, how silence can be louder than any scream. At first, we lived with my parents in the home I grew up in. I still remember my mother's cooking, the sound of her voice calling me in the evenings, the way she always kissed my forehead before I went to sleep. And then one day, earlier than planned, we had to leave. It all happened so quickly. I didn't even have time to process it. I hugged my mother like I always had, but this time she held on a little tighter. She didn't say much. She didn't have to. Her silence was full of everything I didn't want to face. Leaving her felt like leaving a part of myself behind. I tried to be strong, but I wasn't. Not really. When we arrived in the new country, I felt like I had been dropped into a world where nothing made sense. I couldn't speak. I couldn't ask for help. I couldn't even explain what I needed. Aaron's parents were distant from the beginning, not outwardly hostile, but cold. I tried to be kind. I smiled. I thanked them. I helped around the house. I did everything I thought a good daughter-in-law should do, but nothing ever seemed enough. They never asked how I was doing, never asked what I missed, never even looked at me like I mattered. Aaron stayed quiet. He never defended me. He just obeyed his father always. And when I cried, he told me to stop overreacting. I remember holding my baby late at night, alone in the corner of the room, tears falling on his blanket. I remember thinking, I can't do this, but I had to, because there was no one else. I missed my mother like something was ripping through my chest. But calling her was too expensive, my mother-in-law said. I should only call once a month. So I did. I'd call, say everything was fine, and hang up quickly before my voice could crack. It was the loneliest time of my life. Over time, I started getting sick, not with a fever or a cough. It was more like my soul was tired. I felt dizzy all the time, weak, empty. I went to doctors, but nothing helped. because what I needed couldn't be found in a prescription. Still, I pushed on, for my son, for my mother, who was worried but never said so. I could hear it in her voice every time we spoke, the weight behind her words, the way she tried to sound cheerful. Eventually, I found small jobs, cleaning, babysitting. Then I enrolled in a language class. It was hard. I made so many mistakes. People laughed sometimes, but I didn't give up. I learned new words, new phrases, new courage. I found a job at a bakery. I started saving. I set a goal. One day, I'd buy a house, a real home, one where no one could tell me I didn't belong. While I was working, Aaron was drifting. He never really learned the language. He never kept a job for long. So I worked and paid the bills and raised our son. I was the one holding us together, not out of pride, but out of necessity. Still, I never complained. I told myself, this is what love looks like. You give and give and give until maybe one day it comes back. But some people only take. One afternoon, my mother-in-law said something that broke something in me. She looked at me and said, all the other women here have their mothers, but you don't. Then she smiled and added, I always wanted a daughter, but I guess we don't always get what we want. It felt like a stab disguised as a compliment. I laughed politely. That's what I'd been trained to do. But inside, I was screaming. What did they want from me? Love, kindness. After everything, I couldn't give that anymore. Not to them. Respect, yes. Basic decency, yes. But love, no. And then came the worst night of all. Aaron came home drunk, angry. I don't even remember what started the fight, but I remember his voice, loud, slurred, frightening. I took our baby in my arms and went into the other room. And then his father walked in, looked me straight in the eyes and said, if you want to leave, fine, but you're not taking the child with you. I stood there in silence, frozen. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Of course I stayed. I wasn't going to leave my baby. I wasn't going to abandon my child, even if I had to abandon myself. That night changed something in me. A light went out. A line was crossed. And even though I stayed, something in me started to walk away. The years passed. My mother passed away 10 years ago now. I still cry when I think of her. I didn't visit her enough. I let years go by. I let distance and fear steal time from us. And I remember my mother-in-law saying, it's better not to call home too much. You'll get too emotional. You won't adjust here. As if feeling was a weakness. Now, when I look back, I see it clearly. They never wanted me. Not really. I was never a daughter to them. Just someone their son brought home. And I kept pretending, kept smiling, kept wishing maybe one day they would see me. But they never did. Even now, I send holiday messages. I never raise my voice. I'm polite. But every word feels like a stone in my mouth. Every thank you feels like betrayal to the younger version of me, the one who sat crying on the floor. Why do I still speak to them like nothing happened? Because I don't know how to stop pretending. But I'm learning. I'm learning that pretending to be okay is not the same as being okay. I'm learning that kindness doesn't mean silence. And I'm learning that healing doesn't come from waiting for an apology, but from choosing to tell your story. So here I am, speaking finally, not to accuse, not to blame, but to breathe. Because for 20 years, I thought I had to carry this pain alone. But now I know I can let it out, and I can let it go. Maybe I'll never fully forgive them, but maybe I can forgive myself for staying quiet, for being afraid, for not protecting my own heart when no one else did. And if you've ever been where I've been, I hope you know your story matters, your voice matters, and healing begins the moment you stop whispering and start telling the truth.